today. This is a special episode as it is our first episode. So again, we are very glad that you've decided to join us today. I am Deana Spencer, along with Michelle Ross, your host for today's podcast. My background is in figure skating, hockey, yoga, and health coaching, and I'll let Michelle introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on our very first podcast. I am Michelle Rawls. I am a licensed nurse and nutritionist, and I am a grandma to two little beautiful boys, and I enjoy helping people get healthy, feel well, do better.
Awesome. And if you'd like to learn more about us, feel free to take a look at our bios that are in the About section of our podcast. And so we're just going to go ahead and get into what we are going to talk about today. So today's topic is entitled To Scale or Not to Scale. And we're going to look and discuss the pros and cons and everything in between in helping you reach your optimal health. So we will be discussing how the scale may be good for you. Maybe it's not good for you. Maybe from an athletic and on the not the con side, but maybe on a different perspective, the medical perspective. So there's lots to discuss, and let's get started.
Let's do this.
Yeah. So, I kind of wanted to start by talking about the pros, why I think using the scale is super important. And then Michelle, you're going to go ahead and discuss maybe why not to use the scale. So some of the reasons that I have encouraged some of my clients to use the scale, as well as for myself, is that first and foremost, it's collecting data. And I know that sounds funny, but I use it to jump on every morning to see whether it just kind of to check in and see how I'm doing. And either I have a minor celebration for the day, or it's kind of more of a little tiny kick in the pants to kind of stay on track. So that's one of the reasons. And I think when you have a goal in mind, it doesn't matter what it is. If you have a weight loss goal or you have any type of goal, it's really good to kind of break it down into scalable, I guess, visuals maybe. And then that's why data can be super important. The other thing that I've noticed, for me, is it actually eliminates frustration, meaning sometimes if I just work super hard and I'm at the gym and or I'm eating really well and I'm not tracking anything, I feel like I'm kind of in the dark. I don't know, am I making progress? And so the scale for me was a really good way every day to kind of see what was going on. It was just a real quick, read on how things were going for me personally. So, and it's interesting. We'll get into more about how that can be helpful and how maybe it's not helpful in regards to where you are at in your goals. Because for me personally, even just recently, it's actually changed. And I feel like the things, even preparing for this particular podcast, has really opened my eyes to when it's good and maybe when it's not so good. And so I'm going to let you kind of jump in and maybe discuss why maybe using the scale may not be a good idea, or depending on your situation, whether, it could hinder you or help you. So
that we've had this discussion before about, scaling or not to scaling, as we're talking about today. So one of the reasons why I personally, teach individuals to maybe put the scale to the side or personally throw it in the trash, is due to the fact of medical purposes.
Mm-hmm.
It has been proven over a course of time that sometimes that scale just really is a medical obstacle. Where in my sense, I'll tell you a story, what happened to me. I'm 12 years old. My mom is concerned about my health. I'm 200 pounds, and she decides to send me with two older ladies to Weight Watchers. Now, I am not a huge fan of Weight Watchers, but that's what it is, guys.
I've never done it, so I have no idea.
But. And that's true. Not everybody has, chose their certain fad diet situations, whatever the case may be. But I'm sitting here at 12 years old. I am not understanding what's going on, right? I don't have my mom. I've got these two ladies taking me to Weight Watchers, and I'm sitting out here and I'm being told to step up on this scale. And we're out in front of everybody. Everybody's
Mhm.
behind me, and I am standing in front of everyone on a scale. And all of a sudden, my weight is being told out to all of these people. And I'm
Right.
myself, really? Like, did somebody just tell my weight out loud? And, then you go back and you sit down because they write it on your card and they put it in your book. And then you go sit down and you wait for them to host their meeting, right? Because they're going to talk
Mhm.
to you about whatever's going on. And I'm like, I'm 200 pounds and everybody just knew what my weight was. How silly is this?
Well, let's take into account how old you were. Like, this
Right,
is like a humiliation that, I mean,
absolutely.
you're young. Like, this isn't like you're grown up and you're surrounded by your peers.
Nope,
You have no peers, basically. You have
nope,
nothing in common with other people other than the fact that everyone's in there to lose weight.
absolutely not. I'm with my cousin. I'm with two of my cousins actually, and they're older. They're my mom's age,
Uh-huh.
and sitting here being henpecked about, did you not eat your tuna? Did you not eat your fish? Did you not eat this? Did you not eat that? And I'm thinking, I'm 12 years old. Am I supposed to eat that stuff?
Well,
So
and probably you have somebody preparing your meals for you. Like, it's
my
not,
trying. She
yeah,
was really
right.
trying, being great about it. My mom's always been very supportive of anything that I ever do. But, when you are in this position and, this is really what pushed me into being such a healthy individual or, in that direction of my career.
Mhm.
Um, during the 80s, I was definitely, that anorexic bulimic. I went through all of that and really had to push myself, get back on a healthier state.
Mhm.
But the scale was always my detriment. It was an issue. I would obsess over that number. And that
Mhm.
I try to teach my clients not to do. Don't get on that scale and obsess over that number. That scale is only a number. It doesn't measure anything more than you going to the doctor and him giving you a prescription and knowing how much to give you in that prescription.
Right,
So,
which is a good point because I think like it's there's too much emphasis placed on that data that it's too encompassing when it shouldn't be because
right.
it only really reads literally your weight, which means we'll get into that a little bit later, but
Right.
that's one of the other things that we'll kind of unravel, right, as we
Cool.
go through this discussion. Mhm.
So
So what's that?
what's that?
So, I kind of wanted to go in like, well, since, I mean, you shared a great story about how it affected you personally. And then obviously I have my own story as far as like why I used it and continue to use it. But so what's the correct answer, right? So, after doing some research, I found that there was a specific niche. And after talking to you, discovered that there's really two opposite ends of the spectrum, which makes for a great debate, obviously. But where does that leave me? Where does that leave you? Where does that leave our listeners? So we kind of, me and you discussing it, kind of determined that it really does depend on whether or not you're dealing with life stressors
Right.
versus goal stressors. And
Right.
so I was going to have you kind of go into the difference because I know that you've worked in the medical field, and how to describe, like obviously we know what goal stressors are as far as like they're just, well, we have steps that we want to get to from point A to point B, but go ahead and describe what you might say is a life stressor in regards to using this scale or, how weight kind of is a factor to that.
Sure. Absolutely. So, going from the scale point of view of me not wanting my clients, or to help this individual, whoever's listening to us on this podcast, make that decision. So, from a medical standpoint, I personally deal with individuals who are having heart failure, diabetes, they've been through anorexia issues, bullying issues, medical content issues. I work with several doctors in the area. That's the reason why I receive my clientele. But the thing of it is that whenever we're at a medical standpoint and you're getting on that scale, mentally and emotionally, it's hard for my individuals. They're broken. They've come to me
Mm-hmm.
broken. They've been through every fad diet, they've done everything a doctor's told them to do, and yet they just cannot seem to get that weight off. And it is detrimental to them from the whole standpoint. So if I'm asking them to get on a scale and see that number on a regular basis, what do you think emotionally and mentally that's doing to them? It's just tearing them down even more. So
Right.
if we pull the scale away, and we step away from it and we start working on the functional side of nutrition, then that puts them more into a mental happiness and emotional happiness of, hey, I'm feeling better.
Mhm.
I started drinking more water. I feel better. I started putting more, vegetables in my diet. I feel better. But when we get on that scale situation, sometimes we can miss, signals of, are we hungry or are we not? And then if we do lose weight, do we go and cheat at that point? And then if we haven't lost weight, do we restrict ourselves too much? So from the medical standpoint, we're harming ourselves in that sense.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, like I'm hoping people can either hear or see that there's really two opposite ends of the spectrum here as far as like when you're working with athletes, like you're working, like for instance, you're working with people who have health issues pretty much, and that there's underlying circumstances that may or may not be causing weight gain or even weight loss, depending on where they're at. Whereas if I'm working with athletes, I'm looking at someone who's probably in pretty good shape, if not optimal health. And so that in itself, like, and I kind of want to get into this in a minute, is how the scale is actually a tool and can be used or not used, depending on kind of where you're at, right? And I think too, that takes some checking in as far as being honest with yourself as to where you're at, right? For
where you're at. I see the complete value where you're at with being athlete, from your side of things, leaning out is a great tool for that scale, right?
Right, because that's what you and I had talked about before, is that, and I'm discovering this for myself personally, is the scale is really, really, really good at maintaining weight.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily for losing weight, but maintaining weight, because, you talk about two opposite ends of the spectrum. And when you get down to where you're maintaining weight, like what I discussed earlier, as far as where I was at when I was using it a lot, was I was where I wanted to be, right? So I was using it, and I was using it as a tool for quick little check-ins on a daily basis. And so I wasn't ever feeling super discouraged or super encouraged, right? Because it was kind of
a leeway though.
I mean,
I can go 5 pounds up, or I can go 5 pounds down, or
well,
I can only go 6 pounds up, or I can only go 3 pounds down. How are you judging?
Well, I think like, I never did any weight, as far as like, there's no weight requirements in figure skating or hockey or anything like that. So for me, it was more on a personal level. But I think that's a good point, as far as like, you have to remember when you're weighing yourself on a daily basis, you're looking at a 0.1 to a 0.5 difference every day. So it's not, I mean, like if you go a little nutso on the weekend, you might see 1 to 2 pounds, depending on what you consume. Yeah. And so in that regards, it's very different. So like, even for my personal story now, I'm noticing a huge difference, because with what's gone on in the last couple of years, I've gained weight. And plus some of my medication has changed as far as hormonal, like my birth control pill, just to kind of lay it out there. I take birth control pill mainly to deal with PCOS, which a lot of people with PCOS have weight gain issues just because of the hormones and different things like that. So that's the main reason why I take it. But they had changed my medication. And now I'm back on what I used to be. And I've already noticed a little bit of a difference just in how I feel. But
these are the things that I work with, that's what I was telling you, so your PCOS is, obviously in play, and that medication did not work. It actually skyrocket on the scale.
Well, the thing I wanted to add in though was, because of everything that's happened in the last couple of years, gyms are shutting down. They were shut down. Now, a lot of them are reopening at this point. But
the fact of how many people are really in tune with their body like that. How did you know that that medication was really what was making you gain that weight? What signaled to you to make you?
Oh, I just couldn't. Well, I'm not going to totally blame it on the medication per se. However, the pills that they gave me did not have estrogen in them, which I was unaware of at the time. They were called POP pills, progestin only, and which I did not. They actually changed it on me simply due to my age.
Didn't discuss it with you, didn't talk to you about it.
Well, they just kind of said, here's some new, well, originally when I had asked them, they said that they didn't have what I used to take. And I thought, okay, so I didn't question it because I just thought, all right, well, you know, whatever. And I didn't do my homework, which who's to blame? I don't know. But not realizing that the estrogen would have helped me tremendously. It will just would have kept me where I was. And on top of not going to the gym, and my workouts have been extremely inconsistent, that didn't help at all. Like, and I got into a new relationship. We all know what happens when you get into a new relationship. Right? So those are some factors for me. And I had found recently that the scale was really frustrating me. And for a long time, I was like, you know how you just kind of tune into your intuition and you're like, what is going on here? Now, again, I will fully take the blame as far as working out, so to speak. But again, the hormonal aspects of things, and again,
with that. That's what not everybody is in tune with that.
Right.
People don't realize, most don't realize that medication plays a huge part.
Right.
In their dysfunction of that process. Mm-hmm. And until you can get someone to rein that in for you and understand, well, this medication does this medication does that. This is why you're elevating on that scale. And all of a sudden now you've compulsed over that scale because that weight is coming and nobody's helping.
It becomes an enigma. It becomes an enigma all of a sudden, whereas before it made total sense. And I wanted to ask you a question because this is bothering me. Is we all know that hormones play a role in weight gain and weight loss. Is that a correct statement?
That's correct. That is correct.
Why I'm asking this, because I'm just going to pretend I don't know diddly, is why do pharmaceutical companies claim that the birth control pill has zero effect on weight gain?
That's interesting because there actually used to be a disclaimer on the birth control pills that said may cause weight gain.
Yeah, so, and now, and I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense to me because that's a huge topic of conversation usually in regards to women and hormones.
Absolutely.
And I thought, how can you sit there and tell me? Because at another time, they had put me on some other pills that did have estrogen, but I was gaining weight again. And
so let's take away from just that point. Hormones will mess with your weight. But let's look at, I'll just toss out a heart medication, amlodipine. Mm-hmm. Amlodipine will make you gain weight. So many doctors put our heart patients on amlodipine and don't tell the patient this may cause weight gain. Mm-hmm. So here we are, we have a doctor not disclosing, a pharmacist not disclosing to either side of the patient, hormone or heart, that we've got weight gain on these medications. For the most part, most medications do make you gain weight. They really do. Now, like I said, on my birth control packet, and I remember this plain as day, may cause weight gain. It was plain as day written on there. If they're not doing that, I think that they've just grown to the society of, well, you already know that.
No, I mean, I think now, like, their common disclaimer is may gain 1 to 3 pounds or 1 to 5.
Wow.
And I'm like, no. Like,
research now.
Like, if you Google, I'm just going to say it. If you do a web search on whether or not birth control pills make you gain weight, the overall consensus that will come back to you is generally no.
Wow. No, I've got to go look now. So you created a whole new topic. We got to do this.
Yeah, right. Because so we're diverting, but it's an important, yeah.
Whether to scale or not to scale here. So let's talk about getting in tune with the body. How can we actually have our listeners from this point make that decision if that scale is for them or if it's not for them? What's your thoughts on tuning into the body?
Well, I think the first thing was kind of what we discussed earlier, was to determine whether or not you are like let me put it this way, whether or not it's a goal or it's literally a health issue, because I think that those are two totally different things. Now, obviously, if we're overweight, even, we could lose some weight. It's kind of a health issue, but let's just kind of define that a tad. Like a goal is, hey, I want to lose 5 or 10 pounds or even 20. Let's just say, maybe let's push it to 30. But if you actually have underlying health issues that are affecting you, affecting your weight gain, affecting your overall health, I think those are kind of ways to kind of gauge right off the bat whether or not the scale might be for you. And I feel like if it's more of a health issue, don't even look at the scale right now. Like just
let's focus on.
Yeah. And if it's more of a goal, I think, yeah, use it. But for yourself, this is where we're going to get a little deeper into that, is learning to know what motivates you. Because some people, and this is that fine line of holding yourself accountable versus, like for me, getting on it was more of an accountability, a daily little, accountability issue.
Check in. That was me. Can I just check in and, kind of see how I'm doing and,
right.
Forward? Because if I'm feeling good, then I don't think that scale should be something I need to be watching, So that's kind of the way I see it. A goal orientation, like you're saying, absolutely. Am I staying on task? Am I doing what I said I was going to do? Am I making that goal happen?
Well, I have a thought.
All right, let's talk
because as we're discussing how to get to know yourself, right? Because this is a process and there's so many different factors. There's food, obviously, like macro, just all these things that are going into it, how much you work out, right? And realizing that your scale will go up and down. It's not going to be a straight, it's not going to go like this and it's not going to go like that. It's going to be a wave. And hopefully your wave will go like that, hopefully, but that is what it will look like. Just because your body's not it's not a machine, it is an organic, it has processes that it's working on 24/7. And so as you are getting on the scale, you might even learn what is bloating you through your food and your nutrition intake simply by looking at what is happening to your body. That's another reason why I think using the scale as a tool can help you learn a little bit more about your body in regards to, there's certain foods I don't like to eat anymore because I realized through that process that there were certain, like dairy products, for instance. I don't have a dairy allergy at all. Thank God I don't have any food allergies because I love my food. But I did notice that when I drank milk, and especially milk, but I just didn't feel great. I didn't have an allergy, and I switched to almond milk.
The process of the milk itself was agitating the system and maybe more of a bloating effect or more of an IBS effect onto the body. I totally get that.
Yeah, because I switched to almond milk and I can't tell you, I just felt all of a sudden, like I just felt like I could move around a little bit better. And just paying attention to those types of things can really help you be successful in a goal or even in your general health. Like if you are doing it for a health reason. What's that?
Absolutely. I completely agree. And those are things that we go through as we, you do it too with your clients. I do it with mine. As we hear from them that, hey, this over here is not really settling very well. What's your thoughts on it? Typically pull them off, put them back on where they were, and then we'll see if that actually played a factor or it didn't play a factor. In that sense, I don't feel I need a scale though in order to tell me that. So getting in tune with the body is what I really like for my clients to do. Understand what makes you feel bad. Know what makes you feel bloated,
Right. And I think too, like what you said, like you don't need that, and that's kind of a cue that what motivates you and what does not motivate you. The scale motivates me.
Absolutely. I
The
understand.
scale does not, like, and I think that's a great question to ask clients is like, do you feel like the scale would motivate you? Like there's some people, like I had a client who she and I would actually check in on a daily basis. She would check in with her weight. Now there's another person that I talk to all the time, and her response is typically, oh, I didn't weigh myself today. I'll do it next week. I'll do it next week. Now, that's a great example. Now, I know this person well, and part of it is that it's not an encouragement for her because she's been battling losing weight for XYZ years. However, I also know her well enough to know that she doesn't like to be disciplined in certain eating areas.
So you feel like if she's not really disciplined in the eating side of things, that's the reason why she's avoiding the scale versus maybe it just mentally is not a good thing for her.
I personally, just from knowing her pretty much my whole life, you know what I mean? I feel like, and this goes for a lot of people, and I'm not gonna pick on her because I do think it's a motivational thing for her, or I mean a lack thereof. However, it's a good example of are you not getting on? And this is a question you just need to ask yourself personally.
Absolutely.
Are you not getting on it because you know you're not doing what you should be doing? That's kind of where that fine line lays, where it's kind of like, like you have to be honest with yourself. And I'm not going to say that she's encouraged or not encouraged by it, but that's another factor we all need to ask ourselves, because there's times I go out with my boyfriend and he likes cider. So we drink cider, which is alcoholic. It's basically a beer. It bloats you. Do I want to step on the scale the next day knowing what I did the night before? Not really. But for me, it's also a reminder, like maybe you don't need to have two ciders. You could have, you know what I mean? Like it's just kind of.
It is a reminder. Maybe I should just have this little portion versus this big portion. But keep in mind too, if you do have this big portion, what are you going to do the next few days in order to take that back where it needs to be? So it's all about your control over yourself and what you're willing to do or not do. But want to get on that scale the next day after you've maybe had a couple of ciders. I don't think I would encourage that. But are you going to, as a listener, if you're stepping on the scale after having a night out the next day, are you going to be mentally okay with what that scale has to say? Because keep in mind, it's what you've done that made that happen. So are you to prepare your mind for that?
Well, let's remember that it's a tool. And the other thing is if you know you had a night out, I mean, hey guys, we need to celebrate life. Like it doesn't mean you don't have a night. Like I still ate cake and whatever, but if you know that your scale is going to reflect something horrible,
right.
don't get on the scale that next morning. Like give yourself a day to recuperate. Like don't beat the crud out of yourself. Like, okay, like
I have a client who's on that scale every single day. She did not take my advice and she's on that scale every single day. And I kid you not, I deal with daily emails about that weight and how she doesn't believe the program is working. And yet she'll send me her caloric intake for the one shake, and her one shake has 600 calories in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a whole other topic, isn't it?
Right.
Shakes can get you into trouble, huh?
Why are you getting on the scale then? If you know it detrimentally gets to you emotionally and mentally, why are you doing it? So that's why
actually, oh my gosh, that's such a great topic to talk about, because what I picked up from that, which is so fun, I never even thought of it this way, was using, which is really weird to me because I didn't think of it before, but like using the scale as an excuse. See what the scale's doing? Like, this isn't working.
I was in that direction.
And so I was like, you know what? Why? Because the first thing that crossed my mind was, I don't know what discussions you have with this person, but for me, I guess the first thing that I would have thought of was, do you like the questioning back at her from me being my coach and what I do is I would say, well, do you feel like there's something in your caloric intake from yesterday that you could have changed? Because getting somebody to take the personal responsibility, it's like the scale, and that's actually a great way to actually approach that too. If somebody is just insistent on getting on that scale every day, is to say, guys, this is a tool and I'm glad you're getting on it every day, but you have to remember it's unbiased. Like it is telling you what your actions are doing. If they claim, right, that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So
you're going to see those results.
Correct. And so again, this is why the scale can be so controversial, because it's like
really bad.
And this is why when I was talking in the very beginning about data collecting,
right,
it's not just about getting a number every day. It's literally a massive feedback tool. And we did talk about how we use it, unfortunately, in the medical industry to evaluate massive amounts of medical issues. However, but on a personal note, you have to remember the scale is a tool.
Right.
You have to remember why you're getting on the scale, right? Are you getting on it for goals? Or are you getting on it to be healthy? You know what I mean? Like, it's not an enemy. It's a tool that you're using to get feedback from. Okay. So, what's that?
We need to remember that this is a tool. This is something for you to utilize. If it's mentally not there for you, please don't put yourself through that. But if it is something that you're really wanting to stay strict with and be good about what you're doing, please utilize it.
Mm-hmm. And it could be actually an emotionally growing tool. And what I mean by that is diving deeper into where's that emotional trigger for you, because if you don't mind, I'm just going to use your story as an example. You were 12. That stuck with you for years and years and years. And so we're going to get into this a little bit right now, but age, well, and plus, honestly, when you're that age and you're going into your teens, everything is about being embarrassed or not being embarrassed, like peer pressure, right?
Peer pressure.
So when we talk about health and we talk about weight, but we also need to remember there's body composition, right? So there's, different ways to kind of utilize the tools. Sorry, guys. I get distracted when my camera does this. I'm keeping it real, guys. So, but anyway,
but let's remember too that the scale is also about doing a BMI. It can't necessarily do composition because it can't measure fat versus muscle, but it can measure a BMI. Mm-hmm. So that does give you that, especially in your competition worlds, when you're wanting to lean out, the scale is a great tool for that. But just remember, muscle weighs more than fat. And the more muscle you have, the more leaner you're going to look and be.
Correct. So because the muscles are body shaping, and so is fat. Like if you think about it, so it's just kind of like restructuring. But again, muscle does weigh as far as like, it is going to weigh more. So, and that kind of goes back to having a healthy mindset of knowing how that all works. Right. And that's why, I'm just going to throw this out there really quick before we kind of get into that. That's why sometimes having a coach of any kind in regards to health and fitness, it could be a personal trainer, it could be a health coach like you and I, your nutritionist, whatever, is really helpful in helping you learn those things instead of old schooling it and just stepping on the scale and having it be so detrimental that, like your height makes a difference, your bone density, right? Like, and honestly, your weight gain or weight loss is going to show up differently depending on your height. I'm only 5'1". So 5 pounds on me, in all honesty, and 10 pounds can look way different on somebody who is 5'1" versus someone who's 5'10". I mean, huge difference because of where it goes and just
and
like
itself on the body, someone could have a leg than they could a round tummy, mm-hmm. It can be totally different depending on that style, height, and age, it's all in that factorization. So
mm-hmm. And
a scale.
baseline. So like, what's a good baseline to use? Well, find that out. Find that
Right.
out through either doing, yeah, like get some help, figure that out. Like I kind of know what my baseline is. It's obviously when I skated pairs way back a couple years ago, I weighed 106 pounds. And my coach, and I skated with him as well, he would, like when we did lifts, he would put his hands around my waist or my hip area. And he would go, this would be our conversation. He would say, 1 or 2. And I would say, lost or gained. And he would go, lost. And I go, 1 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like he knew. He knew my.
Yeah, because you're pairs, you're skating all the time. So he knows that's up or down.
And that was when I was in my 20s. And then as I got into my 30s, I gained, I kind of went up to like 117. And, and so we have to remember that our bodies are different than when they were 20 years ago. So make sure that when you are embarking on this, or maybe you're in the middle of it and you're just so frustrated, you probably maybe broke your scale. I don't know where everybody's at, or threw it away. I actually put mine in the closet the other day. So,
but if you want to get a good tool going, go get you a scale and get your tool set in place and just make sure of that mindset before you do it.
Well, the other tool would be to get someone to help you. Like, absolutely. I mean, if you need it, like if you literally feel in the dark, even if you schedule one coaching session just to kind of get you going or something, or
that, especially if you've been down this road so many times and you're tired of going down the road, I would highly encourage you get some type of buddy system or a coach or someone that you hold yourself accountable. Accountability is important.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. And it's not, let's kind of talk about that for just a second, because I feel like accountability can be taken as a 4-letter word, if you know what I mean? But I think too, it's like you're hiring a cheerleader. So let's not forget about that, because that person wants you to succeed. They're not there going like this. You know what I mean? Like you're hiring someone to help you, because usually something like this, whether you're pursuing a fitness goal, an athletic goal, getting better healthy in general, like getting rid of illnesses is a big deal up here too. Absolutely. So mentally, emotionally, sometimes even spiritually, you need that person in your corner. And it doesn't, it could be, you can choose who it could be even a friend. I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you, just whatever you feel like is going to help you, because the scale has a bad rap because it's directly connected to motivation, mindset, emotional ups and downs, and mentality. And it shouldn't be. And it really shouldn't be. It really should be just a tool. And it's one piece, a part of everything else, which I'm going to discuss with you kind of the next set of topics real quick, as far as how or what are the other tools that you could incorporate into using the scale as your friend. Not necessarily using the scale per se, but just remembering that there's a lot of other things involved here. So
remember that it's that first key piece that really sets us apart from whether we're going to succeed or not succeed. Let's take a look at that, because that's a lot of people, if I get this scale, will I succeed at this or will I not? So remember how it is such a great tool. And, Deana and I are going to share with you other great tools that we can look at too. But you wanted to talk about accountability just for a quick second. So what about accountability did you want to touch on?
Well, the one thing was, just remember, accountability is not a bad thing. Like, I remember a coach of mine telling me, I still remember the feeling. He was like, it wasn't weighing. It wasn't talking about weight. It was just talking about achieving something. Mm-hmm. I struggled with getting my jumps. And I remember him saying, you just don't want it bad enough. And I wanted to punch him in the face. No, there's a turnaround here, because I did want to punch him in the face when he said that, but you know what? He was right. And the reason why it took me probably a day, because my initial reaction was defensiveness and up yours. And who do you, you know what I mean? Who do you think you are?
But was he right?
He was
What was it
totally,
that was stopping you from making that happen? What he, like he said, you didn't want it bad enough. What was it that was fearing you from making that happen?
because I would keep doing the same stupid thing, or I wasn't pushing myself even that much to get a different result within that jump. And so he was correct. And even though in my head, the emotional crap that I was dealing with as far as trying to get there was so pungent and real. But here's what I've learned, and this is what I teach my skating students. If you just push yourself that much more, and I teach this to other people as well in just general coaching, is you are going to feel like $1,000,000 whether you succeed or fail, because you tried that much harder and you overcame that much of all the crap going on in your head, and you got on top of that enough to push yourself that much further to say enough is enough. And I'm just going to say this, I used to get your ass in the air.
Right.
And, you know, I appreciated the fact that he said that, because
it motivated you. It inspired you. After you got past the hurt, you were hurt.
mhm.
But when you pushed yourself that little extra mile, you accomplished it, did you not?
I did eventually, yes, because it was like, this isn't going to change unless I make the change. Here's the
Right.
other thing. A coach can only help you so much. Like,
Absolutely.
don't turn around and blame your coach. Don't turn around and blame your scale. You have to do the work.
You have to
And
take
that's,
what you did.
yeah. So the scale is simply data. It's simply there as a tool. But guys, you got to do the work. So as far as like having an accountability, some people cringe at that, but you also have to look at, like, usually the person who's holding you accountable wants you to succeed. My coach wanted me to get the jump.
Right.
He doesn't
Right.
want me to continually do the same thing over and over and over again, watch me get off the ice totally irritated and angry every single session.
But that was your choice if you so choose.
Correct.
And what we're talking about, you're making a choice to hold yourself accountable to your actions.
Mhm.
But in return, again, and I love the way you say this, you know, your coach is your cheerleader. They don't want to see you fail. They want to see you completely succeed in whatever goals you've laid out between the two of you. But in essence, if you don't take responsibility, as my client is not wanting to take responsibility right now for the 600, calorie shakes, that's okay.
Right.
I can't change that. She has to understand that that's where she's going, and she's going to keep gaining as long as, we keep doing. So hold yourself accountable, use the scale only as a tool, and definitely get yourself an accountability, a coach, somebody who can help.
Oh yeah. Like I'm just going to share this little story one, because it has to do with that. I was working with another coach years later, which I'd worked with prior. But I was doing the same thing again, because I was trying to get that jump back. And he finally, because I was doing the same thing over and over and over again. And he goes, I'm done. And he literally started skating away from me.
Oh my.
And I skated after him, and he's a very well-known coach in Russia. And I'm like, Yuri, I'm chasing after him. But you know what? Those two episodes is what taught me how to push myself, as well as learn how to communicate to my clients to get past that icky staying stuck in the same whatever I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like, it was it hurtful? It's kind of a little bit of a slap in the face, but you know what? I am so grateful for that, because it changed my path. And honestly, it wasn't even those two incidences weren't that big of a deal in regards to the big scheme of things. And so, guys, people are there to help you.
They are.
Changing is a painful process, or can be. So just keep that in mind.
Back to that too, I know doctors kind of get a bad rap, but there's not all bad doctors out there, because my changing point was my OBGYN back when I was 20 years old, and walked through her door, and I just lost, my first child through miscarriage.
Mm.
And, whenever she came to me, beautiful woman, I just absolutely love her to this day. But she let me know. She was surprised I was still alive. She said I had 0 vitamins, 0 minerals. She wondered how I was still and that there was no wonder I couldn't, carry a child at this point. I was totally stripped of nutrition. So it was a wake up call. It
Wow,
was a
yeah.
reminder that I needed to quit doing what I was doing. And
What's the saying? The truth hurts sometimes, right?
It hurts. Yes, it does. Yes, it
So,
does. And there's price to pay.
yeah. So why don't we go ahead? I'm going to go ahead and jump into some other areas that could help.
Absolutely. Let's do that.
So some of the other things that you and I had discussed, which obviously go in line with what we're discussing, is even though you're using the scale, you also need to be consistent with your workouts and getting to know how to work out, right? If some of you may not even know, you're like, I have no idea. And others may have worked out for a long time, but your nutrition is suffering. Because I'll tell you what, people can work out every day of their life. And if they're eating icky stuff, you're going to not lose weight. Okay. So that's kind of another thing. But so I'm just going to quickly list off a couple things and then you and I can just kind of jump in. But consistent workouts, getting to know how your body works within those workouts, as well as your nutrition, learning how to exercise, learning how to eat, and paying attention to what we discussed earlier, what's affecting your body and what feels awesome. And then honestly, on the mental side and the emotional side is learning how to handle obstacles. So, we've kind of touched base a little bit on some of those things, but those are some, I think, topics that you have to remember. Like, obviously, our title to this is to scale or not to scale. But we can see how there's so much more involved and what is reflective in weighing yourself and how to get from point A to point B by using that scale as a tool. So anyway, those are some things that might help listeners go, oh, like I work out all the time, but my nutrition's in the tanker, or I don't even, I think there's a,
but I go out right afterwards and have a drink and I don't
right.
So I see that a lot, guys. I really do. I see that a lot. I scroll social media just like the next person, and I'll see everybody doing their workouts like crazy. And then I will see them not even 2 hours later at a bar with friends, posting those pics, having some drinks. How did you think that was going to affect your nutritional status at this point? And I'm not saying you can't have that.
Right.
I'm not saying that at all, because I'm the number one person, for having a drink after, but you have to limit how much. And you can't expect yourself to have that nutritional healthy status if you're out here on a regular basis doing that same consistent.
Exactly. And, this kind of popped up in my mind just now, because that happens sometimes, is when I started eating healthier, because I was thinking of sugar cravings. I don't have a sweet tooth, never have had one. I have a twin sister who has, I think she took mine, to be honest with you. She has a sweet tooth. And I do not at all. Like, I can care less if I don't have any type of anything in my house like that. So, and it's not because I'm like, no, it's just because I don't crave it. I don't crave fruits even. So that's kind of an area that I have to kind of watch because I don't crave it. But,
when you eat it, does it affect you in any way? When you eat fruit,
my body, like, especially like refined sugar, my body hates sugar. Like, yeast pops up. It just doesn't, I don't feel good. And that's why, like, I don't crave it, because my body's like, no, thanks. And so, but
for you're good.
Yeah. But the other thing that I have noticed is two things. Cravings disappear when I start giving my body nutrients that it needs. The other thing that I've noticed, though, is if I'm really working out hard and I'm lifting heavy, I'll get a sugar craving, because I need a quick, my body's saying, hey, I just need a quick boost of energy. And I'm not kidding you. Like, I don't have them in the house, but I think it was like Halloween time or something. I don't know. But I had those little tiny Reese's cups. And even that, like, one is enough, but I would just pop one of those. And I'm not the type of person to sit there and like take handfuls of chocolate. It's just not my jam. I don't like it. Give me chips and salsa, I'll eat a whole bag. But so that's like literally, yeah, like that's my vice. That's kind of my go-to real quick snack is like chips and salsa. It is what it is. We all have something. But I just wanted to encourage people that when you literally start feeding your body what it needs and you start doing things that make it feel better, it's not quite the battle that you think it's going to turn out to be. It's not like, oh my God, I got to cut out this and I got to cut. It's not that. You're not going to be craving those things. And it doesn't take that long at all.
No.
It could take literally 3 to 7 days to like start noticing that you are not craving crap to eat. And you're going to notice that when you start eating better, you're actually not, like when you do eat icky food, you're not going to feel good.
Right. Also,
And
your emotional state will change too. So when you're
Mhm.
eating healthier and you're doing the right nutritional steps for your body in particular, you're going to notice your mental state be better. You're going to notice your emotional state's better. Your physical state becomes better. And then the minute you slip into one of those bad moments and you're eating that whatever chips and salsa, we'll just say that because I know it's one of my detriments too. But when you do that, you'll notice how you just don't quite feel so hot. So
Mhm.
know that that's something you need to stay away from and move along and keep doing your nutrition because obviously it's working and you're
Mhm.
feeling.
Well, I think too, it's like a deterrent. Like I don't feel good like when I eat fast food because I mean, maybe before I was like, yeah, this is yummy, but now it's like, I don't, like if we go out to eat too often, I don't feel good. Like I can notice like in my eyes, I can
Yeah.
tell. Like
And
if you, I'm sure you can too. Like when you look at people who eat a lot of processed foods, it shows up in their face.
so one of
I,
the first things I really notice in my clients is when they don't non-water drinking clients, especially one of the first thing I notice when they really start picking up on their water and getting that into their body is that their skin just really starts to glow.
yeah.
So people, I'm telling you, if you're listening to this and you haven't started your water process, get on your water process because you'll just see how much your skin just picks up and glows. And
well,
I've
and it
noticed
just creates a lot of fluidity in your own body too, like literally like
it
easier
cleans
move. Yeah. So,
right.
but I just kind of wanted to just kind of reiterate what we talked about because I know like we went from the scale and now we're going into all these other topics, which is great because that's exactly what the intention of the discussion was to say the scale's not everything.
Right.
It could be a starting jump off point for you. And I do want to mention this because I didn't mention it before was I had sent it to you and I don't honestly remember the article, but I am just going to throw this out there. For those of you who have already determined that the scale is not your thing, and also even Michelle's story, they're starting to have these cards, I guess, at the doctor's offices where you can present it to the nurse or whoever's taking your weight, and it says, don't take my weight. It's not a complete necessary tool, unless maybe you are going to a nutritionist or something specifically that, but
Why don't
it's
you put that article into our podcast? That way then they can have that.
yeah, and I think I sent it to you, so I'm gonna have to like find it and stuff, but we can definitely add it as a link. But I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. Like, guys, you do have control over what's happening to you in your body, even if you go to a clinic or you go to wherever. And that's part of the process of getting to know what you need personally, right? So sorry, I'm just kind of what's
to kind
that?
of back up a little bit, just to back that up a little bit, you can walk into a doctor's office at any point in time or clinic anywhere and say, I don't want my weight taken. And you can have that discussion with the doctor.
Mhm.
I can give you the only reason why the doctor needs that is for whatever purposes you may need for prescriptions. So have that discussion with the doctor. Typically, it's not a problem. They will not push for that. They'll just kind of ask you what was the last weight you were aware of, and then they'll there. So, but
Right.
yes, that card. I think that we need to link that article. I think it's a great article for everyone to see.
Right. And so I kind of like, again, I wanted to throw that out there because we are talking anywhere from being, athletes. Now, again, that's a whole other topic too, and I don't want to get too deep into that, but there are some sports where weight is a requirement, but I think though that if you're in those sports, obviously, I mean, there's some that have gotten a bad rap because of how they treated athletes, but there are some, like boxing, for instance, they have to know, wrestling, they have to know how much you weigh. And again,
what class to put you in.
right. So there are different, different things like that. But like figure skating, for instance, or even gymnastics, they don't place you in a weight division in those sports. And so that's kind of where back in the day it kind of became an issue because it wasn't necessary, other than keeping track of your athletes. Like,
That's
are they getting, what's that?
That's interesting. I did not know that. I always thought that they did have to track your weight per your class, but I guess not. So that's cool. That's
No, yeah, like I think that they used it in order to monitor, like when you're a person who's throwing yourself around in an athletic endeavor,
right.
and you are representing a country, I could totally, in some ways I can understand it, but you have to be a good leader.
Right.
And what I mean by that as a coach, you cannot abuse somebody. Like if someone's eating, like, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, on synchro teams, sometimes it is an issue because there are some people, these are teenagers that we're talking about, who just eat, they have problems at home, they're stashing snacks. It's an issue. Like, I'm not saying it's like totally like, oh, sorry. It's like this massive thing that's going on, but in every sport, you're dealing with emotional things that could upset the eating environment, whatever, like, so again, that's a whole other podcast, but again, so, as we
cross, so hang in there.
What's that?
This topic will come back up again. So,
oh yeah, I mean, like, well, I think it's just a perfect example of how so much is tied to weight.
Yes.
Absolutely. In a good way, in a bad way, it's just kind of hard to say, but
we've hit points today for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. So to wrap things up, I guess, is there anything else that you wanted to maybe discuss, or last points that you wanted to make in regards to anything that we talked about today?
No, I just want everyone to, take this podcast and judge for yourself if it's for you to use as a tool, because it is a great tool. But decide for yourself, is this going to help your mental state, or is this going to be more of a detriment and put you in a position where you really don't know if you can keep going on your journey of healthy living or whatever the case may be? Make that decision for yourself and let us know.
Right. And I'm going to add to that, because just from my mindset of coming from an athletic world, I do want to reiterate, though, that learning about yourself is very key, because these are some other areas too that you can be using as excuses. And so how bad do you really want to meet your goal? And honestly, even if it's on the medical side, like, you have to hold yourself accountable. So the scale can also be one of those things where you're not stepping on it simply because it's a reflection of your actions. So just kind of keep that in mind. It doesn't mean you have to weigh yourself every day, but it's a good question to ask yourself, like, why am I not wanting to get on there, or exactly, like at all, or like I'm not, you know what I mean? So we'll just leave that there, because it'll help you it's kind of like I'm that coach who's saying you don't want it bad enough. Maybe, I don't know. I could maybe have triggered somebody today as far as like, what, maybe she's right. So.
And hopefully, we did reach out to somebody. Hopefully we touched someone today that will actually, be like, that was a great, informational for me. I needed that today. And if that's the case, please reach out to us. We'll have our email down in the bottom, in our bio. Reach out to us. Let us know. Let us know what you thought about today's podcast. Let us know if this helped you. We're willing, to help in any way we can as well. We're both coaches, so feel free to reach out to any one of us and let us know how we can help you today.
Perfect. And I agree with you. Like, I would love to know anybody's feedback. Like, maybe there's something I would love to know if you're like, hey, I would like to have heard this, or what about this? Like, I love that kind of bouncing back and forth. So with that being said, I wanted to, I'm just glad that everyone's joined us. And again, we would like to know if you have any thoughts about the topic. and maybe how it's affected you, or, again, it's very controversial. So, but we'd like to know if you use the scale or not, and why or why not, because I think it's just it's a simple but really fascinating thing to discuss. And so we wanted to thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having you join us on our next times. And take care, everybody. Happy health to all of you, and we look forward to seeing you, or maybe you're here listening to us next time.
Whether
Okay.
you're listening or you're watching, please
Yes.
join us. Have a great one, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Michelle.
Thank you, Deanna. We'll see you soon.
Okay.
Bye.